TIFU by accidentally hitting on a customer. Not a long story, but as a New Year's resolution I told myself I would make an effort to compliment people because it always makes me feel good when I receive one. So this woman comes in, and she's really nice and friendly, and as I'm making her coffee we are having a chat, and she has this huge belt that is absolutely covered in those sparkly jewel thingies, so I say, "I really like your belt, it's really shiny." She smiles and says thanks, so I go, "I wish I could pull it off," not thinking that it could mean something else other than I wish it looked good on me. She blushes and looks down, and when I finish her coffee she looks at me and smiles and says thanks. So my assistant manager comes over and she's like, "Did you just tell her you wanted to take her belt off?" My face goes red as I realize what I said. I explained it to my assistant manager, who just laughed and told me to think about what I say before I say it. TL. Doctor complimented a customer on her belt and told her I wish I could pull it off. Edit. Wow, I really did not expect this to take off. Glad everyone seems to be enjoying my mistake, haha. Also, I'm married, so there is no chance in this becoming a love story, as funny as it would be. This reminds me of a time I was working in a call center and had a husband and his wife on the phone calling about separate banking matters. Without thinking I said, "Okay sir, I'll do you first and your wife later." His reply without skipping a beat, "Good luck doing my wife, it's been years." I was mortified when I realized how it came across. Someone needed time to decide on their order and ask me for a secretary, so I naturally replied, "You can have as much sex as you want." Then realized what I said as I made eye contact with my manager, whose eyes were as big as mine. Lol. Comma. I once said, "That's great color on you." I couldn't pull out off to a woman about 30 years my senior, and her response was, "You could pull it off me." Apostrophe. I love how people don't give any ducks as they age. Or thought, if she didn't get upset, you probably did make her day. Sometimes being hit on casually, like not being pushy, just a one-off moment, can really make a person's day. So in a way you are sticking to your resolution, lol. For sure. A couple of years ago I was being fitted for mic pap mask and whatnot, and the woman was looking at me and said, "Oh my, you have gorgeous eyes," and then she immediately apologized. I of course said it was fine, it was a nice comment. I'm happily married, but it absolutely made my day. One time hanging out at a park I got told, "Wow, your eyes are really gorgeous," and I loudly answered with, "It's 'cause of the Sunday." I still think about it regularly. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the award. Lol. Reminds me of this one time I accidentally flirted with and weirded out the guy working at Zoomies. I had, and still have, really bad insomnia, so I'm running around half out of it. I'm looking at some new tricks for my skateboard, and he strikes up polite conversation and notices the patch on my vest. It literally just says robot, and it's in the same place a name tag would go. He says, "So, you're a robot, huh?" And I tiredly, completely deadpan, say, "Cutest robot you're ever gonna meet." I would tell that to my old people at the home I worked at when I visited in my off days. In my head it was more of a, "I may not be the most attractive human, but I'm darn adorable for a robot." Years later I still remember Zoomies guy's face, and I cringe every single time. When I finish her coffee she looks at me and smiles and says thanks. Look at this absolute boss, drinking down this woman's whole coffee in front of her and having her say thanks for it. She was the one with her mind in the gutter. You must have made a good impression. I mean, it seems weird in my mind to take it another way. I feel like there's a lot of different ways I would have said I would like it, or like to try it on, etc. But I'm glad that this story turned out great for all involved. Next week to the same customer. "Would you like cream? How about a big tip today?" I was once a very bashful but charming 17-year-old male working at the busiest Gap in my city. On one of the craziest days of holiday shopping I was at the till just pumping through customer after customer when this very attractive old lady, 30s, comes up and she's purchasing a few things. "Are these gifts?" I asked her. "Yes, these ones are gifts." Apostrophe. "Okay, then just let me grab your box," I said as I bent down behind the counter to pick up a gift box. I stayed there for a good 20 seconds, realizing how that just sounded. I rose back up slowly, and she was bright red. I was a brighter shade of red. One time when I was like 18 or 19, out of boredom I attached a balloon to my arm when I was working the register at my old job. We usually had some pre-filled and would hand them out to kids on occasion. I decided to give it to the first person who inquired about it. An old guy I would chat with sometimes who worked at one of the nearby stores came through my line, asked what the balloon was for, and I said, "It's for you." He smiled and happily took it, and I felt pretty good about that. He asked me out a week later. It was awkward as duck. The lesson here is never do anything nice. I was accused of sexual harassment once. A long time ago. I had this female coworker. At the time I thought she was a friend. I was walking into the main part of the building, and she was trying to walk out. I opened a door and saw her struggling with like 3 or 4 melons in her arms. Since we kind of surprised each other, we had a moment where we were both standing there and just staring at each other. To break this stalemate, I looked down at all the melons she was carrying. I commented, "Hey, nice melons." To which she made a weird expression on her face and quickly walked away. Like an hour later, my supervisor calls me into his office and says something like, "Listen, I'm sure you didn't really do this, but Sherry says you told her she had nice melons." To which I admitted that's exactly what I said to her. My supervisor went nuts. He was like, "OMG, you can't go around saying that." I stopped him right there and explained that the reason why I said it was because she was actually carrying melons. He didn't believe me, so we walked over to her desk. She wasn't at her desk. I can only assume she was somewhere crying or something. But right on her desk were the melons I was talking about. So I pointed at them and said to my manager, "Look, melons, apostrophe." In the end, my manager laughed and said he'd take care of it. But that was pretty much it for my friendship with that idiot. I absolutely no longer trust women in the workplace anymore. So stupid. That's a great line. One time I was helping a friend with her computer, and after I was done I put my hands on my belt and asked her if she needed anything else. She looked right at my hands, blushed, giggled and said, "No, I don't think so." I worked in a grocery store across the street from a retirement home, so I had a lot of much older regular customers. One lady I was excited to see when she came in because she was really funny and we would trade jokes back and forth, and it was a good time until one day as she was leaving she asked, "Do you like cougars?" I was shocked. Just stood there for a moment then replied, "UHH. Do you mean like big cats?" She never came in again. Hey, nice belt. I wish I could rip it off so fast you get a rug burn on your tramp stamp. Hi, I'm Steve. Context is very important. I guess op is a women, because this was not taken as a serious harassment and makes more sense that they would want to pull off wearing a shiny belt. If a man asked to pull off the belt, it would be taken as sexual harassment, edit, or very handsome. Either way, the women blushed instead of reporting him/her. I feel like this is about tone. If you were like, "I really wish I could pull it off," there's no problem. But if you said it like, "I really wish I could pull it off," then hoopsie. Oh, now that is the power of confidence. You didn't know what you were asking, and it made you look supremely confident. You should remember this. It's like the best skill you can master for getting dates, job interviews, or any first meeting. Just remember to be kind and competent too. That way even if it doesn't work out they won't feel like you tricked them. That way even if it doesn't work out they won't feel like you tricked them. Please elaborate on tricking people. I hear what you're saying. Would like more information. Sorry I was tired when I typed my response. I think a better way to put it is that if you are also kind and competent then, even if the date or interview ends up being a bad fit they will not feel like they wasted their time in getting to know you. Going in with just empty confidence is the method of conmen and pickup artists who are only out to benefit themselves. Thanks for your reply. It just raised a question for myself. Glad it did too. And I agree. Empty confidence is basically BS, well intentioned or not. I can tell you it never ends well. But why would it? If I have unrealistic expectations of myself. Thanks for showing me that. Learning is fun, lol. This story reminded me of a moment I still kick myself over. When I was 14 I worked at a roadside produce stand. There was no cash register, cash only, and although I could use the calculator on my phone, I was pretty decent at mental math, and you quickly learn the typical denominations PPL would pay within the change you'd owe them. Anyways, jump to the hottest week of summer when 9 hours into a shift a lady pulled up and ordered a ton of produce. Him talking a quarter of what I had, around $80 worth, while most just get a dozen ears of corn and go on their way. As I was digging through my float trying to make up the change, I said, "I'm sorry, I'm just way too hot to do math." Eventually I looked up and she was just glaring at me like I was the most conceited prick she'd ever met. I immediately realized my error, but being adolescent me, I was totally tongue-tied until she was driving away. Thanks for the trip down memory lane, Opus. I accidentally flirted with a barista at a cafe when he asked me, "Do you wanna tap that? Pay for my coffee on the card tap." My dirty sense of humor came out before I realized the inappropriateness and said, "Yeah, I do," in a sexy voice. Then caught myself and apologized. He seemed so embarrassed. I once worked in the men's department of a major retailer and an attractive lady comes up to me and asked what I think she should get her husband for his birthday. I tell her, "Nothing from here." She says, "What do you mean?" I tell her he would probably appreciate her showing up in some nice lingerie and a bottle of wine. Skip ahead a week, and she shows up with her husband. I get worried he is pissed at me. His wife points at me and says, "There is the guy who told me what to get you for your birthday." He looks at me and winks. I say this sort of stuff all the time without noticing. It leads to a lot of awkward moments where I have no idea what I said. It can take hours for me to realize, if at all. By then the conversation/encounter is long past. I used to work computer retail in the 80s. Next door was a pharmacy and the head pharmacist was a great looking woman in her 50s. I was early 20s. We had known each other for more than a year at that point. One day she's waiting in line for some printer paper or something when I notice her in line from behind the cash. And I winked at her. To me, that wink said, "Hey there, fellow plaza worker who I see every other day." She saw it as, "Hey, DTF," and blushed. She mentioned to my boss that I was hitting on her, and later I had to explain to my boss that no, as a 23-year-old I wasn't really into 50+ women. From that day on, I didn't speak to her or treat her any different from a random stranger. Welcome to the age of paranoia. The fact that anyone could even think that was a flirtatious comment is utterly ridiculous. I don't think humanity has ever seen autism levels this high before. Mayo. Don't be embarrassed. Had something similar happen to me when I worked at a comic store. Cute girl walks in and has a comic holder with some awesome art. I compliment it and she says she drew it herself and that she's an artist. So she tells me she has her own website and hands me her card, and I tell her, "I look forward to checking you out." Immediately realizing how I said it, I start sweating. But she blushed, took it back, and wrote her number on it and handed it back to me on the way out. I know that wasn't what you were trying to do, but she probably thought that was smooth af lol. Totally unrelated, but it's always funny to see people flirting with customers. I was out with friends doing holiday shopping, and we came across this novelty store which surprisingly had some good perfumes and colognes. So my friend picked a few up and headed to the checkout. Keep in mind, if we judge our group on just physical appearances, she would be the 10/10ths type. So at checkout they had this deal, where you spent over a certain amount you get to pick a number from this advent calendar thing and you would get a free item. You could see the guy's eyes light up like a Christmas tree with a big ol' smile on his face. He just told my friend what number was the one that gave the big money prize. And then the rest of our group went up and all the women with us did not get that same treatment. It's cute, but like, bruh, I don't think that's how you get a girl. Where's my free prize? I legit caught a cashier flirting with my ex-BF. I was hugely pregnant with our daughter and every Friday we would walk to the store to get him a Monster and me a vitamin water. He decided to get scratch-offs and I could tell she was flirting with him hardcore. He scratched his lottery ticket off and won like $50. I told him she was flirting with him and to watch when he interacts with her again. She would smile, lean forward, drag her nails across his hand, flip/twirl her hair and tilt her head and bat her eyelashes at him. After he seen it, he watched her with other customers and all she did with them was smile. I laughed my ass off at how brazen she was and how clueless he was. I don't know where I was going with this story, but yeah, men are clueless and girls are thoughts. I once told a customer nice wood in reference to the planks on the cart. I told a coworker at my full-time job and she laughed so hard she peed herself. She still talks about it and laughs. Don't feel too bad. I was kinda on autopilot when I was being nice to a wraps delivery guy and I blurted out, "Wow, what a big package," while he was holding a rather large box at hip height. Reminds me of a time when I went to take a table's order and opened with a nice boots. The girl with the nice boots also happened to have their nice 80,085. After a lot of mutual blushing and a few dates later we made it official. I asked her to marry me last summer. I did get a good tip from them though. I accidentally hit on a customer once too, and she took it seriously and touched my lip with her thumb, and I got scared and ran away. Then, the next day she came back, and I wasn't scared anymore. And a couple days later we had sex outside of a farm next to a fire. It was dope. I did this dumb shit, was delivering groceries for Instacart, and was on my last delivery of the night. For whatever reason, probably fatigue, I decided to wink at the nice middle-aged white lady after giving her groceries to her. I still don't know why I did that shit. I was definitely not trying to flirt. They fired my black ass the next day lol. They fired my black ass the next day lol. Is the fact that you're black relevant to the story? Well, that took a left turn. But only because my partially sighted ass skipped over the word on. So I read the title as TIFU by accidentally hitting a customer. Made even more frightful when I started reading and saw a belt was involved. Brilliant story. If you enjoy watching these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks.